So yeah, so previous class we discussed expectation and variance, and we gave a rough idea what their physical meaning is. Yeah, expectation is kind of the average value of the random variable, and variance is the average distance from the mean. Yeah, by not counting signs. So they give some idea about the shape of the distribution. Yeah. So yeah, so to make it more rigorous, what this physical meaning is, so that's what this Markos inequality and Chebyshev's inequality does. Okay, and so is Markos inequality true for any random variable?
Positive random variable. Only for positive.
Yeah, positive random variables. And what it is saying? It is saying that the probability that the random variable takes values, large values, a is it's a large number and takes large values, is going to be small. Yeah, that's what Markos inequality is saying. And Chebyshev's inequality. So yeah, this problem with Markos inequality was we cannot say anything if the random variable had negative values. And we saw examples. There were random variables which was taking values very far away from the mean if we were also allowing negative values. So that's why we need Chebyshev's inequality. So Chebyshev's inequality was for any random variable. You didn't have any condition over the random variable. And it said that the probability that the distance of x from mu is greater than some quantity a, yeah, is going to be less than variance of x divided by a square. Yeah. So that was nice. But I mean, these were not completely different. I mean, inequalities. And this was derived from this only. Okay, they are not like different inequalities or anything. They are actually saying the same thing only. This applied on a slightly different random variable gives you this result. Okay, so they are not really different things. Yeah. This a lot of this was invented by Russians. There was a lot of great probabilists in Russia. Okay, and these were invented Marko Chebyshev, and we will later today see what is called Chernov. Okay, again a Russian. Yeah. So let's do some examples. Yeah. So suppose, yeah, this is a very common problem. Okay, so the problem is you are so whenever there is a election, there is this. I mean, I don't know, surveys and everything. No? There will be exit polls. No, not just exit polls, but yeah, they try to. This channels tries to find out. Yeah, I mean, which candidate is popular and everything like that. Yeah. So what do this call this? This is called something. No, the exit polls is just after the election, but before that, what is this called?
Opinion poll.
Yeah, opinion polls. Yeah, opinion polls. Now, so what does they do in opinion poll? How does you? I mean, people know that one candidate is leading, other candidate is. What's the basis? I mean,
They take some opinions from the sample, like from different regions and the states.
So is it fine if I go and just tell, okay, that I have like 10 neighbors next to me. I will go and ask them about a particular opinion. And let's say I just go over in my village and ask. Okay. And is that good enough opinion poll?
It can be a bias, so that is the reason that they go to different villages, different localities, different areas, states, so
Yes.
so that they get the mixed number of opinions.
Yeah, so in my village there might be okay, one party might be leading all the time. So if no matter who is going to win, if you do a conduct opinion poll in my village, that particular person who is popular here will be the yeah. So that's going to be a biased opinion poll and everything. Okay. So what is a reasonable thing to do? So let's say I want to conduct an opinion poll in the class. There is 120 people in the class. Yeah. Not just, let's say we want to conduct an opinion poll in IIIT. There are more than 1,000 students in IIIT. Yeah. And yeah, so every person in IIIT has some opinion about, okay, this person is better, that person is better. So there are some choices, let's say. Okay, so there is let's say binary choice. So they people want have a choice between, let's say, 0 and 1. Okay, so some people prefer 0, some people prefer 1. Okay, and yeah, we have 1,000 people and each of them prefers 0 or 1. Okay, but we want to find out what is the fraction of people who prefer 0 and what is the fraction of people who prefer 1. Okay, we want to find out. Yeah, so let's say mu is mu 0. Then what should I call it? Let's call mu 1. Mu, okay. Find out mu, which is a fraction of people preferring 1. Okay, mu is the fraction of people preferring 1. So what is the fraction of people preferring 0? 1 minus mu. Yeah, good. Yeah. Now, how do you find mu? Can I go and ask all the 1,000 people? Like that will be too much of effort. I mean, opinion polls they don't go and ask all the population of India or anything like that. Okay. So what they do is they have the voters list. They have some data bank of people, and they randomly pick. Yeah. Now I randomly pick and we go and ask them what their opinion is, and what do we do? So there is a full population, and then we have a sample which I randomly picked from the population. Yeah, maybe with replacement. And in that sample, I will look at the fraction of people who prefer 1, and that will be my estimate for mu. Okay, so mu tilde is let's call x tilde is the sample mean. Okay, and yeah, I mean, let's call this x and tilde. Okay, and yeah, we would like to say that x and tilde is kind of very close to mu, right? Yeah. So what is the justification for this? Like, do you think x and tilde is always going to be, so n is the size of the sample? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, how do you model this as a probability problem? Any idea? How do we model this as a probability problem? So there is a population of people. Yeah, some people prefer 0, some people prefer 1, and the fraction of people prefer 1 is called a mu. Yeah. Now, what am I going to do? I just randomly pick a person from this population. I don't know what this thing is. I just randomly pick a person, yeah, and ask his opinion. That's going to be a random number. You agree? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So x1 is whether the first person asked, prefers 1. Yeah, if he prefers 1, x1 is equal to 1, otherwise it is 0. Okay. So is it clear that x1 is a random variable?
Yes.
X1 is a random variable because I'm randomly choosing a person. The people have fixed opinions, but I am randomly choosing that person. So it is a random variable. It's a binary random variable. Yeah. So what is the expected value of x1?
Mu into 1 plus 1 minus mu into 0.
Yeah, so that is mu. Right? Yeah, it's a Bernoulli random variable with the value is going to be. And what is the variance? Variance of x1. What is the variance of x1?
Mu into 1 minus mu.
Yeah. Okay, this is again standard formula we derived. Okay, great. And how do I compute x and tilde? How did I compute x and tilde? I asked a random person. Okay, let's say it is without replacement. Yeah. So again, I randomly ask another person, and it could also be the first person, but it will be very minute probability. If you are having a 1 crore people, the second person also going to be the same is going to be very minute probability. So we don't need to worry that things will be the same that much. So x and tilde is nothing but x1 plus x2 plus x3 up to plus xn divided by n. You agree?
Yes.
So I'm just looking at, so this is x1 is a random variable, x2 is a random variable, yeah, and they are taking 0, 1 values and divided by n. So x and tilde is also a random variable.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what is the expected value of x and tilde? What is the expected value of x and tilde?
Mu, sir.
It's the same mu because of linearity of expectation. Yeah. And what do you think the variance is? That's a bit tricky.
Sir, all of them are independent, right? X1, X2, X3.
All of them are independent. I chose the first person and again independently, randomly chose the second person. Yeah.
So the variance is also mu into 1 minus mu.
Okay. So how do you compute the variance of this? So this is the variance of x1 plus x2. Does everybody agree to that?
Divided by n square, sir. Sorry.
Yeah. So variance of a times a random variable is basically a squared times the variance of that random variable. Yeah, this we discussed in class. Yeah, so it is 1 by n squared times the variance of x1 plus up to xn. Yeah, and these are independent random variables. So still, so the variance become linear. So this is n times mu into 1 minus mu divided by n squared. So that is mu into 1 minus mu divided by n. Okay. Is that clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
So we didn't do anything complicated or anything. So far, everything is elementary. Now, the question that many of these people who conduct the surveys, they need to worry about is, how many people should I ask? How many people should I survey so that my X tilde is very close to mu? So what do you mean by how many people we should survey? There's a name for it we have defined already, no? The number of people we are surveying is, it is n. You already gave a name for it. Yeah? Such that xn tilde is very close to mu. Mu is an unknown quantity. Okay, we don't know mu. I mean, we said the expectation is mu, but we don't know mu. Right? We don't know what mu is. Mu is, there is some mu in the society, but we don't know what it is. Yeah, we just said the expected value is whatever that mu is. This is just mathematical calculation. We don't know any of these quantities. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So how do you think we should go about? How many people should I query? Is it enough to? Yeah, so what is your opinion? How should we ask this question? Actually, the expected value is independent of n. Whether I query 100 people or 1000 people or one person, the expected value is still mu, right? So it doesn't seem to depend upon n, no? Then I just need to query one person, right? Is that fine?
But the variance would be different.
Yeah. So if you haven't noticed, the variance have a different value. Okay. So if your n is very, very small, your variance is very high. Yeah. N is very small, your variance is very high. That means, and what does Chebyshev tell you? Chebyshev tells you that the probability that xn tilde, yeah, minus the mean value of xn tilde, which is mu, yeah, is greater than, let's say, some epsilon. Epsilon is some small quantity. So mu is a number between 0 and 1, remember. Okay. So let's say there is a number line 0, 1, and mu is somewhere here. Okay. Yeah. And we would like to be within an epsilon interval of mu. So this is mu plus epsilon. And this is mu minus epsilon. Okay. Yeah. And this is the probability that your random variable xn tilde lied here. Right outside the interval. You agree? Yeah. And what does Chebyshev tell us about this? So this is upper bounded by the way. Yeah, please.
By epsilon square.
Epsilon square. Yeah. So yeah, this says something interesting. So Chebyshev tells us something very, very interesting. It is saying that so xn tilde is also a random variable. Okay. The result of the survey is also a random variable because I asked random people, so it is also a random variable. They say that the probability that the result of the survey deviates from the actual value. Remember, mu is an unknown quantity, we don't know. Yeah, so remember mu is an unknown quantity. This is unknown. Yeah, this is what we want to find out. But the mathematical analysis tells you that the deviation that, so x and tilde is something you can calculate. You go and ask random people and find x and tilde. X and tilde is something you can calculate. This is something you can calculate. It is something in your hands. But the thing that is in your hands deviates from the actual value, which is unknown, by more than epsilon, is going to be small. This is what it is telling you. And we can substitute the variance. So the variance is mu into 1 minus mu divided by n times epsilon squared. Yeah. So if you look at the opinion polls, they will say, they won't say exact numbers. Okay, they will typically say, okay, the percentage of popularity of this candidate is between, let's say, okay, 65% to 70%. That's what typically they say. They won't say an exact number. Okay, yeah. So they will say, okay, the popularity of a candidate is between 0.65 and 0.7. Yeah. So the mean value is going to be 0.675. Yeah. But they will say this is within this interval. Yeah. So your mean is, yeah. So yeah. Yeah, you don't know the mean actually. Yeah. Just a second. Tilde. Let me just come back to it in a bit. Yeah. So this tells you that the probability of x and tilde is in a epsilon interval of the mean. Yeah, is going to be is outside the epsilon interval of the mean is going to be very small. Okay. Now then again there's a problem. No? So what are we finding out here? What is the purpose of doing this analysis?
So to find the size of the sample space?
Yeah. No, not the sample space. It's okay. Don't confuse
The
things.
sample size. To find the sample size.
How large should n be? Right? Yeah. So this gives, let's say, I want to find out. Okay. I want to find out. The value of mu with 99% confidence. Yeah. So if you want to find out the value of mu with 100% confidence, yeah, the only way to do that is go and ask all the 1 crore people. If you want to exactly find out, yeah, the value of mu, the only way to do it is go and ask all the 1 crore people. That's the only way to do it, because there's always a chance when you do this random sampling, all your people actually belong to a small set. Yeah. So all your people might belong to my village. Yeah. So there's a small probability of that happening. So the only way I can be 100% sure is I have to ask all the 1 crore people. But suppose I am only interested in finding x tilde correctly with 99% confidence. How large should n be such that we can have 99% confidence? Yeah. For 100% confidence, there is no other way. You need to ask all the 1 crore people. But if you only are interested in 99%, yeah. So how large should n be? Okay. So actually, this already tells you how to do that. So as long as this is less than or equal to 0.01, yeah, you are good, right? This means that with 99%, x and tilde is in the interval of mu plus epsilon and mu minus epsilon. So this implies that the probability that x and tilde belongs to the interval mu minus epsilon to mu plus epsilon, yeah, is at least, yeah, at least so 1 minus mu into 1 minus mu divided by n times epsilon squared. And suppose if we make this less than 0.01, this is going to be at least 0.99. You agree?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah. So now we just need to find the value of n such that this number becomes less than 0.01. This happens. Then we answered our question, right? Is there a doubt regarding that? Yeah. Now, but there is a problem. No, there is this mu. Mu is what we want to calculate. How do we find mu? How do we? I can make an equation out of this. Okay, if I knew mu, I can just substitute for mu, and from this inequality, I'll find a value of n. Let's say epsilon is given to you. It is some like a 0.05. Yeah, you are told epsilon. Yeah, how close to the, yeah, how big should be your interval? Yeah, you are told. Yes. So I mean the sample size required. Yeah, sample size required. Yeah, for estimation depends upon two things. One is epsilon, which is how big your interval is. Which is okay. I want to estimate mean to be in the interval of 10%. I am only interested in mean being an interval of 10%, and also the confidence of it being in the interval. So there are these two parameters: the confidence and the interval size. Whenever you have this kind of sampling surveying issues, yeah, so there is some unknown value mu. We would like to find the mu. We would like to estimate that value to be in some interval with some probability. Yeah, and the interval size and the probability of yeah, being in that interval are the two important parameters. If you want the probability to be 100%, so what we are interested in is probability of xn tilde belongs to some interval. Yeah. To be at least some probability, yeah, to be at least 1 minus epsilon. Yeah, so the interval size, sorry, I should say 1 minus delta. So there are two parameters here. Yeah. So let's say the interval size is 2 epsilon. Size of the interval 2 epsilon, and this probability is 1 minus delta. If we want to make delta 0, yeah, the only way to make a delta 0 is you ask all the people. Yeah. Similarly, if you want to make the length of the interval 0, the only way is you ask all the people. But if you are willing to tolerate, okay, I don't want to compute the mu exactly. I want to find the probability that mu is in some interval. Yeah, probability that mu is in some interval. Yeah, I want to find out. Yes, that we can estimate with a finite sample size. Yeah, and the calculation we did was okay. This thing has to be made less than 0.01. But there is one more problem here, which is we don't know mu. This is what we want to find out. So how do we do it?
Calculus.
Calculus. Okay. How? What calculus? Sorry.
We could find the minima by differentiating.
Okay, you are saying okay, instead of substituting the finding the exact value of this, okay, I will find the maximum value this function can take. That's what you are saying. So this number, we don't know this number exactly, yeah, but find out the maximum value this number can take. Yeah, so we have this equation mu into 1 minus mu divided by epsilon squared, right? Yeah, n times epsilon squared. Yeah, we have this quantity, but what is the, so we don't know mu, but what is the maximum value this mu into 1 minus mu can take?
1 by 4.
You can differentiate.
Max over, yeah, you will need to differentiate and everything. But yeah, if you think about it, the maximum, so you are not allowed any mu. Mu is in the range 0 to 1. Yeah. This is always upper bounded by, no matter what mu is, this number is always upper bounded by 1 by 4 times. You agree?
Yes.
Yeah, so the maximum value of this function happens up at epsilon equal to 1, mu equal to 1 by 2. You differentiate and find out and you will get this. Okay. Now, suppose the maximum value is less than 0.01, then this is also less than 0.01, no? If the maximum value is less than 0.01, then this is also less than 0.01. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So what we will do is, now we know how to choose n. How do you choose n? N is at least 1 by 4 times 0.01 times epsilon squared. Take any sample which is of this size, then you are done. Is that clear?
So can you repeat once this last part?
So where are you lost? Tell me where are you lost? Then I can start from there.
Sir, from finding the max value of mu.
Finding the
Max value of mu and then property.
Yeah. So we wanted to make this quantity less than 0.01. That's what we wanted to do, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But the problem is we don't know mu. Mu is an unknown quantity, which is that is what we want to find out. Yeah. But look at the maximum value of this function, where mu is in the interval 0 to 1. What is the maximum value this function can take? Yeah. So n times epsilon squared is a fixed thing. So what is the maximum value mu into 1 minus mu can take if mu is in the range 0 to 1? 0. So yeah, if you substitute mu equal to 1, then that is 0. But if you substitute mu equal to 1 by 2, it can take 1 by 4, no?
Yeah.
And can it take a value more than 1 by 4? Yes. So how do you find out? Yeah. So if you want to find out the maximum value of a function, you just differentiate, make it equal to 0, and then you take the double differentiate and see if it is positive or something. Okay, I also forget things, so yeah, correct me if I am wrong. Yeah. And just substitute that value. Yeah, and if you take the derivative and make it equal to 0, you will say mu equal to half or something. So if mu equal to half, then mu into 1 minus mu is equal to 1 by 4, which is what I have done. Yeah. Is that fine?
Yeah, okay, sir, got it.
Yeah. So this is the maximum value. Even though we don't know mu, whatever mu is, this quantity is going to be upper bounded by this number. Yeah. And as long as we make sure that this number is less than 0.01, we are done. We have our guarantee. We are 99% sure that our estimate is correct. Yeah. So then if you just rearrange this inequality, you will get n greater or equal to this. Yeah, so what is this inequality saying? So does this say that, okay, we had to take very large n? So this inequality is saying any n larger than this number is fine. You will have your guarantee. Yeah. In particular, n equal to this particular number will also give you that guarantee.
But this guarantee can be misinterpreted by using some very small value of epsilon also.
Yeah. So yeah. So there are two parameters here. So let's say this number is delta. Yeah. So delta is the confidence which we want to be sure. So if it is some if it is some thing which is not very critical, I can have delta also to be large. Yeah. Yeah, something very critical. I want to find exactly estimate. Then I want delta to be very minute. Yeah. So your n is going to be kind of equal to the sample size is from this calculation that comes out. It is equal to 1/4 times. So this is delta times epsilon squared. Yeah. So if you want your delta, yeah, to be very minute, then n becomes very large, inversely proportional. That also makes sense. If you want to be like really sure, the only way to do it is go and ask all the people. Yeah. Similarly, if your interval size, yeah, we are interested in whether the what share is let's say between 0.65 and 0.650001. It's a very small interval. Then also your n will be large. Yeah, your epsilon is going to be 0.000. Okay, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 raised to minus 6. 0.5 into 10 raised to minus 6. That's how small your epsilon would be. Yeah, but suppose your interval length is 0.65 to 0.7. Yeah, so your epsilon is like 0.025. And I can substitute it here and get the value of n. Yeah. Is that clear?
How did you get 0.25 from the upper bound is 0.65 and 7?
No. So you should understand the physical situation. Yeah. So what is the physical situation? We want to conduct a survey. Yeah. We want to conduct a survey. Conduct survey.
0.25 or 0.025? Sir, it will be 0.25 or 0.025?
Let me just complete the sentence. Yeah. You want to conduct a survey. Yeah. Conduct a survey such that, yeah, to estimate mu with, let's say, 0.025 error and 99% confidence. Yeah. So what this means is we are interested in probability of x and tilde. X and tilde we have defined is in the range mu minus point. Yeah, so let's say let's make it 0.5. 0.05. So 0.025 to more plus 0.025. Yeah. So the length of this interval is 0.05.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the length of the interval is 0.05. We want this probability to be at least 0.99. Yeah. So this is basically your epsilon, and this is basically your delta. Yeah. And if you are asking this question, then the answer to that question is n is equal to 1/4 times delta times epsilon squared. So now you can just substitute. Yeah. So delta is this is 1 minus delta. Okay, this is 1 minus delta. So delta is 0.01. If you remember, our delta was outside this interval. So if it is inside this interval, this will become 1/1 minus delta times epsilon squared. So which is So this is 0.025 squared. So this will come out to be some, I don't know, 100 into 10 raised to 6 divided by 4 into 25. So this is 100. This is so you need to query 10 raised to 6 people. Yeah. Think of it, the underlying population is very large. It's very, very large. Okay. And then you need to query, yeah, that is how many people. 10 raised to 6 is like, yeah, it's a large number. Yeah. If you want to get very good guarantees, so typically they don't estimate with 99% confidence. Maybe they will only estimate with 90% confidence, and this number would become much smaller. Okay, it will become actually 1/4 of it or something like that. Okay, so yeah, what did we do? We'll just go over it again. Yeah. So yeah, we are interested in opinion polls. There is a large population, let's say, of people. Each person has decided, okay, who they prefer, 0 or 1. They have decided. So mu is a fixed quantity which is unknown. There is no randomness in mu. Mu is some unknown quantity which you want to find out. It is there, yeah. But what we don't have the ability to go and ask all the people. Okay, we can only find out. Okay, we can but randomly sample some people and ask them. Yeah, and we would like to minimize the resources that we use. That is, we would like to minimize the number of questions, number of people we ask. Okay, but we still want to get some guarantees. Okay, that the vote share is in this range with the high probability. Okay, we have some guarantees. So this epsilon delta is the guarantees. That epsilon is the interval length, and delta is 1 minus delta is the probability that the estimate is correct. Yeah. So how do we model this? So xn is basically the sample mean. So I will randomly choose people and ask them, and xn is the fraction of people in the sample who actually voted for 1. Yeah. So x1 is the individual persons, the first person I asked, first random person I asked, what is his estimate, that is x1. So xn tilde is basically the, yeah, so yeah, this relation exists. So xn tilde, we were able to compute, mathematically compute the mean and the variance. Yeah, but again, these are unknown quantities. Mu and mu into 1 minus mu, these are unknown quantities. Yeah. So then we ask. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Sir, can you please tell me from what the formula variance of x is equal to mu into 1 minus mu came? I just got found.
This formula.
Yes.
So this we derived in the last, I think, 2 lectures back or something. You can go back and check the video. If you just expand the formula, you will get this answer.
Oh, that ex square minus ex whole square formula.
Yeah. You just apply that formula, you will get this answer. So yeah, you should buy. Certain things. Whenever you are working with random variables, certain formulas you need to understand. For example, for a Bernoulli random variable, what is the mean? What is the variance? For a binomial random variable, what is the mean? What is the variance? For a geometric random variable, what is the mean? What is the variance? If you remember these things, your life will become very, very simple when solving problems. Otherwise, you will each time you will have to sit and calculate all this. Okay, so these things you need to just by heart. Yeah, that will make your life very simple.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So fine. So we estimated the variance of xn tilde, and then what the question we were asking, could be framed in terms of Chebyshev. So what was Chebyshev saying? It is the distance from the mean is greater than epsilon is less than this, and so this is another way of saying xn tilde. Is in the range mu minus epsilon to mu plus epsilon is 1 minus this quantity. This is the probability that this random variable xn tilde is outside this interval. Yeah. This is the probability that xn tilde is outside this interval. The probability of xn tilde is in that interval is 1 minus this probability. Yeah. Suppose now you know the parameters epsilon and delta. Okay, I want to estimate within this range and with this confidence. Yeah, that means let's say 99% confidence. That means this quantity is 99%. So this quantity is less than 0.01. Yeah. And then we had this problem. Okay, we could find out the sample size n, but this mu is unknown. We don't know what to do. But the thing is, we can just take the maximum value of that function, which is 1/4, and just ensure that the maximum value is less than 0.01. If this maximum value is less than 0.01, whatever mu is, that is also going to be less than 0.01. Yeah, and we found this formula. Yes, where delta is, let's say it is you want to estimate with 90% confidence, delta is 0.1. Yeah. It is the probability that that you go wrong. Yeah, so delta is a small number. And epsilon is the interval size. Okay, yeah, we want to estimate the probability that the watcher is in the sum interval, and epsilon is the interval size. Yeah, and yeah, as you see, the formula itself tells you if you want to be sure with 100% confidence, you need to take n very, very large. So because delta is 1 minus that confidence. Similarly, if you want to estimate within a very, very small interval, then again n has to be very large. Yeah. So what is practical for you is, okay, if it is some, let's say in some 5% interval and let's say 95% confidence, you can get a reasonable number n. Is this clear? Any questions?
Yeah. So, sir,
Yes.
Does this suggest that the n that we need to choose does not depend on the original size of the population?
Yeah. So kind of assume that the original size of the population is very, very huge. Okay, it is like, yeah, obviously, I mean, you think of it practically, right? We made some simplifying assumptions that all our choices are without replacement and everything. Yeah. Yeah. So those are some simplifying assumptions so that this x1 to xn are independent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, suppose your population is some finite number, let's say 1 crore, and n starts becoming something like 50 lakhs or something. Obviously, our modeling is wrong. If your population is more than 1 crore and n is more than 1 crore, then you are essentially asking all of them. So yeah, there is something wrong with the calculation. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So what is wrong is we made this x1, x2 were independent choices. x2 could also be equal to x1. Yeah. But in practice, we never ask the same person again. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But if your population is very large, 1 crore and everything, then the probability that even if you independently pick, you will get the same guy is going to be very small. So, yeah. So the assumption is the underlying population is very large. And if you randomly pick again, the probability, it's very minute. So you can just ignore and calculations will go through. So we can try to do this calculations where x2 is not an independent choice, where it is a with replacement choice. Then the calculation becomes harder, it becomes more complicated. We could do this calculation very simply because we made these assumptions.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Now, so you can ask, this is some inequality. Okay, it's very possible that even with the mathematics told you that n has to be greater than this. It's very possible, yeah, that even with lesser n, the same guarantee holds. Our analysis didn't show it, but maybe our analysis was a weak analysis. We made a lot of simplifying assumptions. Look, we just upper bounded this quantity by a worst case upper bound. Why? What is the reason for this? I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe this was a very oversimplification, and because of which your n was too large. Okay, so can you improve this bound on n? Can we do the sampling with much smaller values of n and get the same guarantees? Okay, so yeah. So it is possible. Okay, so there is a, there is an inequality called Chernow's inequality, Chernoff bound. Okay, so Chernoff bound is a strengthening of Chebyshev. Okay, and it will allow you to get much smaller values of n in this particular case. Okay, so but the proof of Chernoff is going to be much more complicated, and we won't be covering in the class. Okay, I will just write the statement, and we can use it as a black box. Okay, so let me just write the statement. It's a little bit complicated, so bear with me. Yeah, even I have to sometimes refer the textbook, then only I can write it. So let me just find it and write it. Okay. So Chernoff bound says that, okay, suppose x is a random variable, which is summation over I equal to 1 to n xi. Okay. Yeah. So xi is a binary random variable. Xi's are binary with probability of xi equal to 1. Sorry. Equal to 1 equal to p. P is the probability that, so we call this mu, no? Let's call it mu only. So xi are some binary random variable. Let's say they are identically distributed and they are independent. Independent, identically distributed, let's say. Such that the expected value is mu. Yeah. Yeah. Now the probability that the probability that, yeah, so let's call this xn. So these are n independent copies of xi. So let's call this y, because there will be otherwise a lot of confusion. Yeah. So yn is in sum of n independent copies of xi divided by n. Sorry, this is exactly our previous situation. The probability that yn, yeah, belongs to the interval mu minus epsilon to mu plus epsilon, yeah, is going to be at least, yeah, so 2 e raised to minus just a second. It's kind of n mu delta squared. So just a second, I might need to think a bit. Yeah, so there is some constants divided by 3 and everything, which we can ignore. Okay, so what it is saying is, yeah, it is in this interval is exponentially small in n. Yeah, so remember that this n is sitting in the exponent. Okay, so if you look at our earlier bound, n, yeah, is 1 by epsilon and delta. What Chernoff bound tells you is, your suppose this is less than 0.01. Okay, yeah, then your n is going to be yeah, so it is going to be at least yeah, so it will yeah, so it will look like log 1 by delta into 1 by epsilon squared. Okay, so okay, there is a confusion between epsilon and delta here, which I need to address. Just a second. So there is no delta here. So this is like epsilon squared. Okay, yeah. So yeah, so this exact number I will clarify next lecture. Okay, but what is important is if you use this bound, yeah, your n will look like this. So remember, earlier n looked like 1 by epsilon squared delta. Yeah. So even if delta was very small, epsilon was like 1 by delta. But this number looks like 1 by epsilon squared log 1 by delta. So remember, log 1 by delta is exponentially small compared to 1 by delta. Yeah. So if you apply Chernoff bound, you will get samples like size this. Yeah. And that will mean that you can actually query much less number of people and get those guarantees. Okay. So today the lecture time is a little bit over. I can take 1 or 2 questions and close the lecture. Yeah, I will recap this again next lecture. No questions? Okay, so yeah.
So please explain this part 2 ki power e once again.
Yeah. So this part I will explain it again next lecture. Yeah. But what I want you to take from today's lecture is there is something called Chernoff bound, which is a stronger version of Chebyshev. What do I mean by stronger version of Chebyshev? Let's say we apply it to the earlier problem. Yeah. If we apply to the earlier problem, earlier we got a bound something like this, right? If we apply Chebyshev to this problem, you will get n to be equal to this number rather than this number. Yeah. And if you look at here you are multiplying by 1 by delta. Here you are multiplying by log 1 by delta. This number is exponentially small compared to this number. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so this is what Chebyshev gives you. And this is what Chernoff. Yeah.
So the n will be smaller in the Chernoff
Yes.
for the same values, like for the same confidence.
Same confidence. The problem is Chebyshev made lot of simplifications. Yeah. And by doing that simplifications, we were getting very larger values of n. We do the simplification. Okay, we didn't know mu, so we just substituted it by the maximum value. But actually, the mu into 1 minus mu is much smaller than that quantity. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So, in Chebyshev, we made lot of simplifications, but Chernoff, takes advantage of the fact that these are completely independent random variables, and it cleverly makes use of the fact because of which it can give stronger guarantees. That is, even at smaller end, you will get the same guarantees. Okay. The proof we will not cover, but the statement I will make clear in the next lecture. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for today.